2 of GSTL starts today. It's time for FXOpen up against Seoul with a completely new format.
Today we have the preset format. All the matches have already been determined, so this is the format that Seoul is more familiar with, and hopefully for them also the format where they can achieve better results than in the first part of the season.
Yeah, definitely going to be better chances for them, I feel like, going into this one, because in round 1 they weren't able to take a single match, looking like the weakest team by far. But like you said, they're more experienced with this one. They have played in Pro League in the past, and this is the type of format that they're really good at, where you have tons of time to prepare for very specific matches. Each player has one matchup to worry about, not multiple ones. So as long as each player is doing their part here, I could see them taking it.
Yep. In the first part of the season, FXOpen was able to take it against Seoul in the all-kill format with a 4-2. The only players that were able to win a match for Seoul were the two Protoss players, Dia and Trap, and of course they are still the heavy hitters of the team, so they are expected to get their wins, or at least give their opponents a really good run in the format that we have currently at hand. But here now you can prepare a lot better for the matches. You know already in advance what kind of map you play, what matchup you play, which opponent you have to prepare for. So this is the matchup that Seoul has played in the past, and they really need to step it up a little bit if they want to achieve something this season.
Yeah.
In the last part, they actually finished last without taking a single map.
Yeah, not even taking a single
map, of course,
team match. Yeah. We're going to take a look at our standings currently to give you guys a little bit bigger of a refresher here. Axiom Ace are currently 3-1 with a +6. Startail taking up second place. Azubu not far behind, just by 1 indicator point. FXOpen and Seoul, the two teams playing today, I should say, way at the bottom with -5 and -6. Really looking rough for them.
Yeah, for both of them, it's now a time to really step it up a little bit and try to start into the second part of the season with a victory, and of course preferably one with a really good indicator to get out of that kind of slump that they had in the last season. FXOpen definitely not happy with what they achieved or didn't achieve in the last part, and for Seoul the same is true, so both teams are in need of a victory and also in need of a really distinctive one.
Exactly. So here are our maps. You can see Gumiho will face Haiva. Tastar, an interesting choice for FXOpen, will go up against Deer and a Protoss will have Seed against Youngju. And that's a really pivotal map, I feel. If Youngju is in shape, Seoul could actually take this one early, I feel.
Exactly. Like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and I feel that Seoul is definitely in a good spot depending on especially Youngju. But if it goes down to the match versus Linog and Sanae with the performance that we saw out of the Seoul Zerg player, I would definitely give Linog an edge here. And then it could go to the ace match, so it's going to be all hinging on Youngju, I think, if the rest of the games, if the rest of the players, let's say, perform as you would expect.
Exactly. I really think Seoul is going to surprise a lot of people who watch the first round thinking, okay, Seoul is the weakest team here, there's no way they have a chance. Even though FXOpen's the second weakest, they can't take them out here. But I really feel like Seoul could do really, really well in round 2.
Yeah, they definitely could, but they have to start showing it today. They are up against one of the weakest teams of the first part this season. FXOpen definitely struggling quite a bit. Lineup, of course, did not change here. Tacita is one of the players that we will see today as well, and JKS also.
Gumiho looking a little bit stressed out.
Yeah.
Some help there from Supreme, it looks like.
Definitely. He was like, I don't know, like, he was looking like he was suffering there a little bit, but like, he's getting help. And of course here we have the Seoul team with Haiva playing today in the first game against Gumiho, Sanae in the last, and we have Youngju, Dia, Trap, and also Huangshin playing. Whereas Last still doesn't make an entry. We haven't seen him in the first part of the season, and so far he's still a no-show.
Yeah, he won't be the first or the last to be playing, looks like here, and everyone here looking a little bit tired. Gotta wake up, Haiva. Playing pretty quick here.
Yeah, meets the Chipmunk style today.
Yeah. And,
third Chipmunk, we found it.
We did find him. Now, for those of you who did not watch the All-Star match that was last week, I definitely recommend going back and checking out that VOD. Even if you don't have a ticket, you need to buy a ticket just to watch that. It's worth all the money.
Guys, the All-Star match was absolutely crazy. Not only were the games really good and enjoyable to watch, but the entire show match in general, which is so funny. Definitely check that out. And we actually talked to the Korean commentators about the 3 Chipmunks, and we showed them pictures, and they were really, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
And so I would not be surprised if they would actually talk about that on the stream today as well.
Yeah.
As you can see here with the match history, 1-0, FXOpen, as I mentioned earlier, was able to win it in the first part of the season against Seoul in the all-kill format back then with a 4-2.
Yeah, so I think with this format, Seoul has a much better chance, but overall, not looking so good here in Team League. And I mean, the thing is their roster is really, really small, but in this format, everything is kind of set. You don't have to worry about snipers.
Yeah, the roster is especially small since we didn't see Last once this season, and that is definitely a liability these days because they do have only one Terran player, and that happens to be Last. So currently they are only using their Protoss and their Zerg players to make it happen. So that's definitely a huge problem that they currently have. In general, Terrans this season with the teams that we have, not a lot of them. At FXOpen you can see they also have only one Terran. That's the starting player for them today. That's GOMTV.
Exactly. They used to be able to rely on players like the best, but not so anymore.
Of course, the C also retired, so another player that they lost there.
It's a tough time to be a Terran right now, I feel, in Korea, especially against the Korean Protosses that are doing so well, especially in that late game stage of the game. So, you know, one thing I feel like Seoul is doing this year is they're kind of priming it a little bit. They keep using the same players over and over again. They become a little bit predictable in that way.
Yeah, I don't think they have a lot of wiggle room on the other hand, but right now it's a very different format, so suddenly you can use more of your lineup. You don't really have to depend on just like 4 really good players. You have to actually make sure that you put a few more players out there, and that might help them a little bit, but as we already said, with Last not making an appearance so far this season, they are really predictable going into the second part.
Yeah. Well, here they are, Choya with his double pins. Seoul coach comes out as well.
Actually, looking at it, Seoul is in a lot of trouble if one of their players gets sick. If Last doesn't make a comeback, they have to put 6 players out there, and that's their entire lineup already. So you know exactly who you're meeting, you don't or who you're facing. You just don't know on which map. But that is definitely an issue. So if one of their players can't make it for some reason, they're already looking at a death one.
Exactly.
Death loss.
We talked about this quite a bit in the past, just how scary it is to have a roster that has only 7 players, so if you miss one, you know, you're actually in trouble.
Axiom Ace is in a very similar position.
Yes. So just barely able to squeeze through. And you know, I actually expected that we were going to see maybe some new players on Seoul going into round 2 that we hadn't seen before, because you can change your roster in between rounds and add additional players if you've gotten you know, some B teamers you want to put on your roster. We have not seen that. So I'm curious to see how Seoul will perform. I really feel like they can do this today. They absolutely can. They have some of the best players in the individual leagues, and they're good at that preparation. They've had a lot of time to prepare. They know the map, and like I said, if everybody does their part, because everybody has to do their part together, but if Deer can focus, if Trap can focus, if Youngju is in the right mindset, I kind of favor them here.
Yeah, looking at the matchups that we have, the 2 matches where I really think that they're going to determine the course of this match a lot is the starting match where we have GOMTV versus Haiva. GOMTV definitely a player who can take that, but a lot of people are of course also rooting for Haiva, and we've seen that in a preparation format he's really strong. If he knows the map, if he can prepare a build, he's really good at that. I feel the 2 Protoss players will most likely take their games for Seoul, and then we have the game between Seed and of course Youngju. And we've seen pretty good games out of Youngju, but on other occasions he was completely like destroyed by his opponents by very simple tools, like just a little bit of multitasking. So if you see him with a nice build that he prepared and a bit of calm, then I think he can make win that game, and then suddenly FXOpen is in a lot of trouble.
Exactly. So he kind of plays third, so there's a little bit of tension there, because if at least he doesn't play 4th, because had he played 4th, then you might have this situation where he's like, oh, this is all up to me, I could actually win it here, or maybe they get the momentum back for me. So as long as he can stay calm, because I think he has maybe some nerve issues, he's not as used to playing in the booth as some players like Seed are, then maybe he could take it.
Yeah. So the round of the games that we are having, we have a Terran versus Zerg as our opening match today. Starting, of course, for Team FXOpen, as mentioned before, it's the Towel Terran. It is GOMTV.
Yep, GOMTV playing a really fun Reaper strategy in the All-Star match, as well as showing some not the best we've ever seen Marine splits in the Marine Split Challenge. But
yeah, that was actually funny, like him being a Terran player.
Yeah. We'll see how he does on the other hand here. Rocking a new towel, got some pink roses on it, it looks like. And, you know, I don't know if that's a towel I'd use. I'd use a Mimic him an FXOpen towel.
It's probably a lucky charm.
Maybe he got it from Lucky himself.
Choya, he had kind of a good time in the All-Star match, had a lot of fun there. Yep. Was also pretty GG'd by Aphrodite in the smack talk after the 2-2. Shots fired, that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but that was really a lot of fun, so make sure that you don't skip only through the games, but also watch the stuff in between.
Yeah, absolutely. Haiva has been having some rough GSTL matches. He's lost 4 of the last 5 matches he's played. And even though he's a really, really good Zerg player, great in the individual league, he's ranked 65th in WCS points, he just does not seem to be on the edge of taking the victories he needs right now in Team League. In the all-kill format, he usually comes out last and tries to turn things around for Soul, but basically every single time he's failed at that. So he needs to really put it on here. Coming out first in this format is actually just totally different than coming out first in the other format, the all-kill format, because you're not the only guy who's prepared for the map. Everyone's prepared for every map.
There's also another element of strategy coming into the into the format that we have here, where you have the preset games. Because if you put one of your strongest players, like being the last player, maybe the 5th player, they might not even play just because you find yourself in a situation where the match is already decided at that point. Yeah. So a lot of teams will most likely just put a couple of weaker players back there. But on the other hand, if you make that as an assumption that a team is a little bit like if a team is actually, if there is like an incentive for the team to put a strong player in the middle because that's where they want to get those points and make sure that they are not losing early, then they are very, like, there's a good chance that they put a weak player at the end, so you might be like tempted to put a strong player at the end to get a really easy win. And as that happens, FXOpen uses Lenok last, which is really interesting since we could see a scenario where Leno doesn't come into play.
Yeah, you're completely correct on that, and it's all about the maps too. You know, Fruitland, a map that's a little bit weird. There's the lemons, of course, and the map structure is a little bit tough to play late game on, so putting Haiba here actually makes a lot of sense to me since it's very aggressive.
I really like what Seoul has done with the order of players that they chose here, going from Haiba into Dia, Youngju, Trap, and then Huang Xin and Sanai. Makes a lot of sense in my opinion. We're going into game number 1, and let's see how that works out for them today. Fruitland is the map, Gumiho versus Haiba at the GSTL Colorful. To the top right, we have the Terran player for Team FXOpen, the Towel Terran, it is.
FXO Gumiho.
Nine-tailed fox, Towel Terran.
The map, of course, being the mother of all puns, it is Fruitland. And we'll see if Gumiho is able to eliminate the Zerg player to the bottom left of the map. It is for Soul.
Soul Hiva.
Oh man, aren't you glad they put this map in the pool? It's just incredible what the things that you can do on this map with those lemons.
It's so good. Now this is definitely the most fun map that we had in a long time.
Hey!
And welcome to Korea. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.
Yeah, so right now we have with Haiba, a player here in the game who has shown in the past that he really likes to be aggressive. He's very unpredictable. In general, in the matchup, it's not his strongest. He lost just recently to Innovation after winning against MMA. That was also in the GSTL, of course, first part of Season 2. He's 9-11 in this matchup, offline, in Heart of the Swarm. That leaves him with a 45 win percentage. And, sorry, 54. No.
Wait, what? What is happening?
I'm losing it. Like a 45 win percentage. I was wrong the first time. Right the first time. Oh my god, what's going on? I need more coffee.
I need to reboot my calculator. Like by calculator, I mean KHA calculator.
Exactly. I need to reboot my caldo. It's like Gumiho, on the other hand, is 26 and 24 in this matchup. That leaves him with a 52% win ratio in the matchup. So a little bit. A little bit better than Haiba here, a little bit more stable in the matchup, you could say. Also a lot more maps played, so more experience. But this is a format where Haiba feels at home. You can prepare for an opponent, you know the map. And I feel with what we've seen in the first part of the season, players now really make an effort to get those lemons on Fruitland to just get that edge in the mineral income.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than you might think to be able to get those lemons if you actually have map control. Something that Gumiho is going to want to take right away here with that early gas he's taken, getting the Reaper out, and also starts the CC.
I'm pretty sure that one of the players is going to demonstrate today what happens if you take those fruits in the middle of the map and try to take that edge once you gain map control.
Yeah, if you can control the map, you can actually do it multiple times. I think we had in one game recently, someone got 3 lemons, and maybe even 4, but that's a ton of minerals, 500 per trip.
If you get this many, it's very likely that you're going to eliminate your opponent. So we've seen this in the past several times, no lemons, no win. That is actually something that is still holding true. Like, if you don't get the lemons but your opponent doesn't, I don't think we had a single game where the player that didn't get the lemons won the match.
Exactly. In fact, you're absolutely correct. I can confirm. So a lot of annoying drone harassment by Haiba this whole time. The early game, he sends a drone in, prevents the wall, he continues to harass, and he's poked the SCVs, he delayed the command center, and he actually made 6 lings, and he's hiding them. And I think he's going to try to stop the command center from finishing, but He sends the Lings actually to the top left, and I don't know why. I thought maybe he was going to start working on the lemons, but he sent only 2 to where he could actually harass the SCV building. And he needs a target, and he does, and actually he will delay the CC, maybe even pick off the SCV himself. No.
Yeah, the rest of the Lings are actually quite interesting. I'm not quite sure what he wants to do there. Maybe just spot a drop a little bit later or some kind of run-by, but at this point in the game he doesn't really need that. Maybe he's just trying to just go in with the Lings once that the Terran player leaves his own base, and I guess that's what he does.
He could also make Banelings out of them.
He doesn't have a Baneling nest. I don't see him getting one this early in the game. So I actually think that what I said first is exactly the case. He moves out with the Hellion and the Reaper, and now he tries to sneak in with the rest of the Zerglings. Gumiho doesn't really expect it, so now the Lings can try to get in. And that's what they do.
They get in all the way here.
But there are already 3 Marines, and a nice micro here by Gumiho. No problems whatsoever dealing with this. Really well done. Splits the Marines like a boss and takes out all 4 Zerglings.
That was really well done by him. Hyva's idea was interesting, but of course there were no SCVs to kill. Great deny here on 2 tumors, forcing the cancels there. And Gumiho's going for a really quick start port, so he's going to get into that drop play right away. Something he's known for, something he talked about during the preseason of the GSTL, right when Heart of the Swarm was in beta, saying, hey, the drops are actually really, really strong. They might even be too strong.
We have a lot of Overlords coming in already for Hyva at this point. 3 additional ones, not overdoing it just yet. Let's see if he adds more, but it doesn't really look like it. There comes the Baneling Nest, and I was just about to mention that he's actually getting a lot of gas, considering that he already started his speed upgrade. So that's a very fast Baneling Nest that he has here. A lot of creep spread also going down for him, and here come the Zerglings. So he could actually go for a very aggressive build and just try to bust his opponent, which underlines once again what we said earlier. He is an aggressive player, he likes this preparation style, and it might just be the build that he determined would be the best to take down Gumiho early in the game.
He's even going to show a 3rd drone here at the hatchery.
He's actually taking it.
Yeah, he is, and well, he could still be aggressive. He made a lot of Lings.
I mean, you can play the Baneling Nest also just as a defensive measure, especially when you have this much creep spread. It's really easy to make sure that the Terran player doesn't get too far ahead. Once that you have your own speed established, you have the Banelings, you can work against Hellions with them and also against the Marines. So that's something that he can do, and he will, since he already adds 2 additional evolution chambers. He wouldn't do that if he really planned to go for a simple Baneling bust here.
Yep, and you know what? This attack here by Gumiho is definitely going to force a cancel on the hatchery. The run-by, on the other hand, going to be a slight annoyance. There's a Marauder in the bunker, that's all he's got, so he's going to lose some SVs, but meanwhile there's a scan, and tumors are being cleaned up in the south.
You know, those tumors might actually give him the time to maybe get the Banelings into the picture, and then he might be able to hold that 3rd base.
Oh, the Hellions go for the natural instead. The Banelings, like you said, are ready. Needs to split. Show us that Baneling split, Gumiho. Great pullback by Hyva on the Banelings, on the other hand. He saves them.
Also on the Zerglings, he just attacked for a little bit and then he moved back. He forced all those SCVs off the mineral line at the natural. Right now the 3rd base is under a lot of pressure though. The Lings are already running in. He wants to keep that base. He doesn't want to go for the cancel, but he might have to. He's going with the Banelings off creep, and that's the problem. All of the Banelings gone.
Now,
nice micro by Gumiho here with the Hellions.
Yeah, now the hatchery's finished. There is no possibility of a cancel, and this is all going to be cleaned up. The Queens need to run away here. They're actually in full retreat, but it's too late. Transfuse too late as well.
At the same time, the Zerglings are still harassing the natural of Gumiho, doing a lot of damage to the SCVs over there, or did for a little bit. But now the 3rd base of Hyva is going down. Of course, the Broodlings helping out a little bit and taking down a Marine or 2. But at this point in time, same harvest account for both players, and Gumiho already being on the 3rd CC. Things are starting to look a little bit dire here for Hyva.
Yeah, look at that units lost tab. 400 versus 2,312. And basically everything went Gumiho's way and everything went wrong for Hyva. He lost all of his Banelings because the creep was cleared up a little bit too soon. It was hard for him to get that engagement that he wanted. Not only did he not cancel the hatchery, but couldn't kill the army, and then he lost the hatchery, so Gumiho gets a great trade all around here. He even has a siege tank out right now to help defend against any counter pressure.
Banelings are spotted. Yeah, that was supposed to be like a run-by attempt to go into the mineral line. But what really went wrong here for Hyva was that well, you have 2 choices. You can either cancel the hatch, or you have to hope that the hatch goes up and the creep is being spread. Because once that he moved off creep with his Banelings, that's when Gumiho could just use his micro to take down the Banelings. They all clumped up, he took them out, and from this point on it was already given that the hatch would go down. Hyva didn't just have enough Zerglings here, and he was relying heavily on the Banelings, and when they go off speed and you don't, off creep, and you do not have the speed upgrade, you're in so much trouble against a player who micros properly.
Yeah. And, you know, Gumiho continued to poise himself with the Hellions on the right side of the map, trying to find any run-bys. Maybe kept some tumors he could find. And, actually going to get caught here, maybe. Not quite.
Gumiho doing a pretty good job at controlling the map. He just wants to make sure that he knows everything that's going on. He knows that he slowed down his opponent significantly. He's currently upgrading his third command center into an orbital, and that will then give him already a surplus in income since he has the third mule then. But he's losing his Hellions now, and giving up the map control therefore.
Exactly. That's going to be a big problem for him. There's a huge Baneling attempt to run by here.
Should go for the lemons, to be honest with you. I think it
so.
would be a good move since he's already falling behind, and if he gets the lemons, he might be able to just come back. Oh, and nice split immediately by Gumiho. Very well done. Sees that happening.
That was a terrible trading. I can't believe he detonated like that. He could have done a million better things there. That was horrible.
And actually, Haiba went for the lemons, but Gumiho saw it and he was immediately like, no dude, you're not getting those 500 minerals. I'm gonna get those. I have the map control here. I'm not letting you get back into the game.
Yeah. And Gumiho's about to start 2-2 as soon as that armory's finished. Goes for harassment. 24 Banelings being morphed right now. I feel like Haiba is in super desperation mode right now. Poor control there on the medevac. Small victory for Haiba, but the lemons being mined now.
Good control on Haiba's Banelings. He was waiting until a few of the Marines were already unloaded out of the medevac. He did not sack one Baneling for one Marine, so that was really well done by him. And he's actually getting back into the game. He's still behind, but he's now on 3 bases that he has established, and he's trying. I mean, he's trying his best to really make sure that he has a chance in this game. At the beginning, it looked really bad for him when he lost that third, but he might have a fighting chance here.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. He's stabilized a little bit. He doesn't have a 4th base, but he can take one now that he's kind of established to back map control at the bottom of the map. Gumiho's next push here is so critical. If he can actually shut this down, then he will definitely be able to take a 4th base. Problem is, he's going to be dealing with 4 siege tanks, 3 siege tanks in this army, which is not something Zerg players are used to dealing with in the Heart of the Storm. Gumiho going to have to target really well on the Banelings, but again, this is just not something that Haiba is going to be used to, but he's sieging a little bit late.
Yeah, the siege is late and the Banelings moving in. The siege tank is already gone. Another wave of Banelings already on the way, trying to eliminate all of those Marines, and most of them are already gone. Suddenly the army supply really going low for Gumiho, but Haiba is still in trouble. He's down to 30 army supply against 60. He's doing his best to stay alive in the game and maybe edge out a slight advantage in economy since he's now taking his 4th base. But we have still the lead here for Gumiho, who's on the map, who's present, who farms the melons, who's trying to do the lemons, does the best that he can. So, but Haiba is still fighting. He's still in this.
Yeah, he's still trying to make this work. That was a good defense there, and now he's able to start that 4th base like I was talking about before. But Gumiho has such a presence on the map. I feel like Gumiho could either try to force a cancel on that 4th base or try to get the other lemons right now easily, and it would be really hard for Haiba to stop him. He doesn't have a whole lot of defense either as 3rd base, no bunker or anything like that, so run-bys could also be a problem if Haiba could see this and capitalize on it. Nice control here on the watchtower. And what do you think about Gumiho adding in these siege tanks? It looked like at first it was defensive, and then it was aggressive, and now he's stopped making them. He's starting Widow Mines.
Well, it's pretty much Wings of Liberty style that he played there. He went for a push with Stim early for the 3rd base, and then he started to add his siege tanks. So this is what you would see in Wings of Liberty. And it's something that Bomber also tried a little bit. Most Terrans will still go for the Widow Mines since they are just faster, more flexible. Medevac going down, huge win for Haiba here. Already making very good moves on the map, but still far behind in army supply. As you can see, 86 versus roughly 66. And the 4th base on the 5th for Gumiho, that's going to be an issue. That's the base that he's currently building. But I feel that Gumiho he lost a bit of his momentum that he had going, and the Mutalisks are really giving those siege tanks a tough time. Yep. You have to guard them if you go for siege tanks. That's one of the disadvantages you have playing them.
Yeah, certainly. And he switched out of them entirely here, but the Widow Mine's now more useful against the Mutalisks. Before there were Mutalisks, a big problem on the map. The siege tanks were great. Here comes a huge Baneling run by from Haiba. He loses a ton of lings to a Widow Mine shot, and frankly, he probably just couldn't see the Widow Mine underground there because it was behind the CC. Oh, wow, where are the splits? That actually, right there, gives Haiba a huge edge back in this game.
Yeah.
I mean, what a mistake.
That was something that Gumiho just didn't see. He moved to the bottom right and he thought his army was safe there. He didn't see any units there, so he just moved to the bottom right. He was like, okay, as soon as I need those units, I'm using them. Now a bit of a misstep here by Haiba, losing 3-4 of his Mutalisks there. Definitely not something that he wanted to happen.
Yeah, both of these players just throwing away gas as it is.
Yeah. I mean, at that time, I feel both of them not really realizing where this opponent's army is positioned. Haiba with 480 APM there times, so pretty insane. 12 medivacs, also a huge amount of them.
Alright, this has got to stop Haiba. He actually might get lucky again if Gumiho's not paying attention. Meanwhile, the drop to the left is spotted. The Mutas turn around immediately. And you know what? If he unloads all those, he can easily kill the Mutas. And Gumio is not paying attention. However, neither are the Banelings. He's going to get the lemons.
Yeah, gonna get the lemons, and we have an attempt to drop the left, but here comes that one bunker, and that is gonna be enough for now. Oh, last second pull here by Gumiho. That saved his units. Oh, wow. Mutalists in the last second actually realizing that there's a double drop to left side.
These guys are really just multitasking so much. There's so many things to be watching at all times. He's going to have to boost away here, and the Mutas are finally going to chase him down.
Yeah, but the base to the bottom right has to be cancelled. Gumiho now pushing his way farther into the territory of the Zerg player, establishing his fourth base at the right side of the map, and then using it as a bit of an outpost.
Yeah, is Gumio going to be paying attention to this one? He's definitely going to want to stim and kill some of those Mutas if he can.
Haiba's just falling behind an army supply, heavily at that, and his upgrades, I mean, he's getting there. He already has the +2 armor upgrade, he's going into +2 attack for his melee units as well as for air, and he's also trying to transition into hive tech, but it's gonna be a bit iffy for him. He's just falling behind in income very, very fast.
Gumio not... Wow, this is actually so weird. If I could explain everything that happened there, it would take me like forever. He's got Marines there, doesn't see them, the Mutas don't see, because they killed the Mutas or the hatchery, but he delays his attack.
I mean, at this point, actually, like, the income of Haiba is better, but the fourth base, as soon as that comes into play and the SCV transition has been successful with the extra mules, it's going to be difficult for Haiba to really keep up with this. For now, they are both 200 supply, and good moves by Haiba here on the map. Gumiho even adding Thors now against the Mutalists.
Yeah, and having Thors here against the Mutas is great. They can also tank Banelings quite well. And later on, if he has enough of them, he can use them against Broodlords if it comes to that. Usually Vikings are the better choice, but with that new payload upgrade in Heart of the Swarm, or I guess I should say mode, not an upgrade.
Drops to the left,
yeah,
the right side to take down drones.
Yeah, he gets the 2 drones and the hatchery. He's going to get a 3rd drone here as well.
Gumiho is just starting to really stabilize and to make sure that he has a solid position on the map. He's building missile turrets in the main base, just making sure that Mutalisk flybys cannot do anything against him. And he also has that planetary to the right side of the map, so just establishing his outposts, making sure that there's no problem for him. Widow mines at his opponent's potential satellite bases. So really solid performance here by Gumiho. He had a bit of a iffy mid-game, I want to call it, when he lost quite a lot of his drops and also like the siege tanks.
Yeah.
But now he's doing a really good job at just having a very solid defense.
He just has so much mineral income. He got the lemons twice, and he's just always present on the map, destroying the hatcheries of Haiba. And Haiba is really trying to play this harassment-oriented style, but he's constantly on the defense. Great door shot there. I feel like Gumiho can actually start to be a little bit more aggressive directly, because he's just picking off a hatchery left and right, but he's never actually taken a big frontal engagement.
A big problem that Gumiho has here, in my opinion, is that he does not start his 3-3 upgrades. He just now started the armor upgrade, but for a long time he was already in a position where he could have gone for the upgrades. He definitely had the resources to do it, and he didn't. And now it's suddenly Haiba who takes the edge in the upgrades, and Odril at some point. So that's going to be a really good position for the Zerg player here, who keeps just to establish his own satellite bases. So if he gets all of those and the added tech, then I feel he has a really good chance at taking down Gumiho in the late game. Who, by the way, adds a lot of factories right now and barracks for extra production.
Exactly, and I think with the factories, hold that thought, it's a split here. Thors gets some good shots off, and he is going to be able to take out one of these hatcheries. He's going to go to the south and take out the 4th base. But meanwhile, the Mutas are doing a ton of damage at his own 4th.
The problem is the Mutalists don't really do too much. I mean, they were attacking one of the barracks, but once that was gone, he didn't attack again. So now he's sniping a few additional ones, and he just straight goes in with the Banelings, and he takes down the planetary. Well done so far. Oh my god, and all of the SCVs are gone. But the question now, of course, remaining, is Haiba able to stop this doom job?
Here he goes. He's got 2 Thors, a ton of Marines, no, 3 Thors, excuse me. Queen, not long for this world, and now he's got a great position in the main base where he can control the ramp and take out any tech structures he can find.
The main base definitely a goner. A 20 supply lead in army supply for Gumiho, and Haiba knows that he has very small chance of walking up that ramp and saving his main base.
And he might lose 3-3. The evolution chamber going down here, the first one. Luckily for him, at least the tech is in another base. He doesn't have his lair here. He doesn't have his Ultros cabin here, so that stuff's going to survive a little bit longer.
Just goes for the trade, though. he decides that the position that he has is just too bad, and he goes for the trades. He's trying to move in and take down the bases of Gumiho. Gumiho establishing 2 of his Thors at the ramp, making sure that incoming melee units don't do too much against him. And now Haiba just decided, you know what, I cannot stop this army. I have to just go for the counter-aggression.
Yeah, and I think that Gumiho needs to realize this is happening. He's actually moving out here with the second wave of an army. That's not what he wants. Turrets here well set up, but that planetary is going to go down almost instantly. Well, if he targets his banelings properly, that is.
There we go, most of the turrets already gone, but losing a lot of his army supply as well. Gumiho is at 150 army supply against 86, so in a straight up fight, I don't see like a lot of chances for Haiba here. Gumiho so far is dominant.
Yeah, he really is, and it looks like he's going to continue that continuous plating, nearly done, but he will lose that Ultralisk Cavern as soon as Gumiho realizes where it is. And this army for Haiba is just a little bit too small, and all Gumiho has to do is continue to push back because his defense is at his base, so the defender's advantage is really strong. He's got no workers, but that makes his army supply 152.
Really good decision making here by Gumiho, going for this massive drop. Took a bit of a risk there, of course, but still, it paid off so well for him. He killed everything in the main base. The one thing that actually kept Haiba in the game a little bit longer is that he spread out his tech and did not just put everything into the main. He had like tech structures everywhere on this map, and that was a really smart move by him, but he's running out of steam here. He needs a huge victory and maybe cut off a small part of Gumiho's army and take it out if he really wants to proceed into the next stage of the match.
It just doesn't look like it's going to happen because Gumiho smartly walks back here. Now, consider that Haiba, even though he's down a lot of army supply, he has really strong tech units. He has a decent amount of Zerglings he can make into Banelings when that nest is remade, and also he's got those Ultralisks, but Gumiho has a ton of income. He's got that production. He didn't need to really commit to finishing him off just yet. He stabilized. He retook his bases. Yeah, he's only got 26 workers, but with all the mules he has, it's going to be pretty easy. Oh, ouch, that hurts.
There's also a huge lead in the upgrades now for Gumiho, who is on 3-3. We have 15 medivacs to support the bio army that he has. All of the drones are biting the dust here, and this base is not gonna hold. I mean, he has no chance of actually making that happen. There's way too much DPS, and the position for melee units is horrible. Mutalisk taken out here, only one survives, and that one lone Mutalisk will be taken out by the double claw here without a problem at all. Ouch. So suddenly, Haiba down to 86 army supply against 160. Gumiho is looking unbeatable in this game now.
Yeah, Gumiho got ahead early, but I don't want to understate his composition. It's so interesting and unique. I mean, hold that thought. Banelings here trying to go for good connects. This is what I'm talking about. With good connects, he could maybe turn this around. Does not look like it. Not quite enough.
Yeah, not really, especially with Gumiho at the same time having the better production. And those Thors are doing a lot of damage to these Ultralisks, and of course they take up the damage from Banelings that are not microed properly. He's really trying to set himself up with another base to get the income once again, but Gumiho just doesn't allow it. The Terran player, the Towel Terran, is on his way, and he is just wiping the floor with his opponent at this point. The army supply overwhelmingly in his numbers, 145 against 70, and better upgrades and composition.
Baneling Nest is dead, which means these 16 Banelings are probably the last ones we're going to see. Having the Marauders go at front to tank and try to snipe them. Here come the Thors. Thor's going to tank so many shots here, and then the Marines at the back doing the real DPS. And here we go. Already split here is Gumiho. The Ultralisk doing good shots on the Thors, but the Marines.
Yeah. Ultralisk doing their best here, but they're just not enough. It's a numbers game that he can't win. And he goes down 100 army supply against 20, sealing the deal here. Most of the Thors will fall actually to a few drones if he's not careful. Even the last Thor with 1 hit point survives, 9 kills so far.
Yeah, it's just too much here. And the Thors clean up all the drones. And Haiba looks really frustrated with this. I don't blame him. Yeah. It was a tough game.
Gumiho eliminating his opponent here on Fruitland. And once again, it holds true. No lemons, no win.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like his style, going in this early siege tanks before the Mutas are out. When the Mutas come out, he switches to the Thors, not only to deal with the Mutalisks, and basically when the Thors are out, the Mutas are doing nothing. GG.
They were definitely a great support here to have those Thors, not only to take down the Mutalisks, but also against the Ultralisks, against everything that he had.
And the Banelings even too.
Made a lot of sense for him, yeah.
They just fire so quickly, and they will eliminate Banelings, and if the Banelings run into the Thors, things get really, really nasty really fast. It's hard to actually make sure your Banelings don't hit the Thors, but hit Marines instead.
So Gumiho taking the first victory here for his team and putting FXOpen with a 1-0 onto the scoreboard.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are expecting Haiba to take that first one. Haiba himself looking like that's what he was thinking. I mean, not even leaving the game until the last second there just goes to show his frustration. And yet again, Soul struggling in the team league. What is going on? just not performing today.
Yeah, on the other hand, I have to give it to Gumiho. He played really strong here, and he was talking to me a bit just a few weeks ago and said that he was not really happy with his performance and that he wanted to focus a lot more on his matches in the future, and that's exactly what he does here.
Yeah, and you know, something to talk about here is we've seen it a lot in the GSTL recently, players experimenting with some of these units that Blizzard has talked about buffing or nerfing. Maybe this is partially because of the upgrades being together in the future, and of course the Widow Mines being nerfed. Maybe that's why he's using them less, and also adding the Siege Tanks in early because the Siege Tank period may be reduced in an upcoming patch. We've seen players use the Oracles a lot more, even in PvZ, where you don't really see that all too often. So I feel like you said, Gumiho may be looking towards the future, trying to use a style that might be stronger with the new patch.
Gumiho also a player who always just played his own style. I can still remember the games that we discussed in Wings of Liberty, where he was the only Terran player that went for ghosts against Infestors in the Terran versus Zerg.
Yeah.
So he's not afraid to actually experiment with a few new things. And building an army that has this many Thors in the composition, that is really something that we don't see all too often, and it worked really well for him. Of course, he went into that late into the late mid game with an advantage already, but that advantage is something that he forced out in the game. So strong first game for FXOpen. And now I feel it's time for the Protoss players on the Soul roster to make sure that that Soul is not trailing too far behind.
Exactly. Haiva was usually the cleanup guy, the guy who came out last, and with this format he came out first. He had a map, or he had a strategy prepared. Things didn't quite come together for him there, and I think it all went wrong at that third base when Gumiho was able to not only kill his army, but then kill the hatchery, and the hatchery wasn't cancelled. That was when Haiva lost all of his momentum.
Maybe a cancel and trying to establish the base to the left side would have been the better choice here.
Yeah.
Going with the Banelings off creep slowed him down so much that Gumiho just took out everything. So the next game is going to be set up here, of course. And we have now Zerg versus Protoss, if I'm not mistaken. No, actually it's a PvP.
Yeah, Tastar coming in here, and a lot of people were really surprised by this pick. Look at the recent 5 GSTL matches. All losses. He's currently 6-17 in GSTL. I think actually, without a doubt, he is the worst player we have ever had in the GSTL. In the old seasons, he looked okay back when he was on NSHOSA, back when NSHOSA was doing well, back in the days of Seal. But, and you know, Sage, Freaky, back in those days he was looking like a good player, but I think he has been consistently, over the past year, the worst player we have ever had in GSTL.
He's definitely struggling. I mean, there's no question that he has performance problems right now. But he's also in a new team. Think about it. I mean, he played like the first half of the season already for FXOpen. Problematic is that he's up against Deer.
Yeah.
Not really the player where you think, okay, that's where I'm going to make my comeback. But if he's able to win against him, that would be all the more impressive.
Deer 2-4 in GSTL, but again, this is back in the round 1 where it was all kill format. This is his type of format. This is where he can really excel. And playing Protoss versus Protoss against a weaker player, he's got to be feeling confident here.
We're going to a 5-minute break, and then we have our Protoss versus Protoss here at the GSTL. See you guys in a few.